Hello, everyone. So last week in Extended Events Part 1, we talked about the basics of extended events as to what exactly it is, what are the advantages, and why you should prefer extended events over Profiler. I did a head-to-head comparison in terms of ease of use. Ease of use is not really a great factor because I see that even in extended events with GUI, there are issues. It's not very intuitive. But what is more important, the highlights from last week were extended events is very lightweight. It is very powerful. It has many events that you can configure and do some deep dive troubleshooting with SQL Server, which is not possible with Profiler. That is the most important aspect. Profiler has been deprecated in terms of announced for deprecation, and Microsoft is not making any more investments in Profiler. So all the latest troubleshooting that you want to do with the latest features, those will not be available in Profiler. Extended events is available from 2008 onwards, but it was really from 2012 onwards that it was well available in terms of GUI and basically smoothing out the edges. In the last week's extended events part 1, I also showed you how to set up extended events using GUI, the graphical user interface. We went to extended events and Object Explorer, right click, created a new session. I chose a couple of events. I configured the predicates, some global fields. So we did all of that. We talked about a couple of targets that are available. For example, ring buffer, file target, name pair matching, histogram. And of course, extended events is a huge subject, and it will definitely take a lot of time to talk about everything that is available. Once I had configured the session, and if you recollect, I had chosen a few events like SQL statement starting, completed, batch starting and completed, and stored procedure starting and completed. So kind of common things that we were generally doing with Profiler, like capturing query statistics. So I chose some of those events. And then after configuring the event, we started watching the live feed in the live window. And in Management Studio, I had run a bunch of queries, if you recollect, and I was capturing them. And I also showed you how you can configure the live window as per whatever analysis you want to do. So I showed you sorting, aggregation, grouping, then configuring bookmarks, so for easy comparison and analysis, and how the settings are saved and how you can open the settings back or export the live window data into an external table and then do further analysis there. So a lot of those things were shown in part 1. And now in part 2, today, I am going to show you some real world usage of extended events, and I'm going to run some workloads, capture, and I'm going to take 2 or 3 examples. The amount of time we have, probably I'll take up 2 examples, and then we will open up the forum for question and answer. So as usual, there are no PowerPoint slides here. It's all demos in Management Studio. I hope you like my background. That's about Data Platform Summit. So as you know, me and my team, we do a lot of community stuff around with Data Platform Geeks and SQL Server Geeks. And we were coming up with a mega event Data Platform Virtual Summit. So this is the first year it goes virtual. Last 5 years, it was happening in Bangalore. So yes, if you have not visited, do visit dataplatformvirtualsummit.com. This time for the community, all the sessions are going to be recorded and you are going to get it at no extra cost. So, that's the commitment we have come up with. Anyway, let's start sharing the screen and jump to the demos. So I'm going to share my screen on the VM. Let me first launch the VM. All right, so please confirm me in the chat window if you can see Management Studio and a few scripts are open and the live window is open. Just type yes and I would know that. Okay, perfect. So I'm getting an affirmative answers from most of you. Now, so this is really where the window was even last time. So I think I left it there and I had just saved it. So yeah, good opportunity here to kind of show you what can you really do here And if you remember, I was showing a couple of these columns, and let's say you want to right click and choose the columns that you want in the live window. I showed you this, and I showed you the grouping feature. I showed you the aggregation feature for first you have to group and then aggregate. And then this drop down button, I showed you features like toggle bookmark, previous and next bookmark. So a couple of these things. Now today, as I said, let's implement extended events and let's put it into use so that it can help us troubleshoot query performance. That is one of the reasons why you will want to use extended events. Extended events just goes much beyond than just trying to implement or trying query performance stuff. It can do a lot more stuff, but then we will begin with query performance. So let me close, let me keep this window open because in case I want to show you something more. And yeah, so let's formally begin. This is Extended Events Part 2. My name is Amit Bansal. I've been working with SQL for some time. You can follow me on Twitter, _Bansal. Lot of learning content on SQLmaestros.com. So after the session is over, you may want to visit and watch a few more recorded stuff out there. If you are keen on learning more stuff right in your inbox, if you want to get more learning resources and links, you can subscribe to this exclusive newsletter, bit.ly connect with AB. If you want the scripts that I'm using today, just drop an email to connectwithab@sqlmaestros.com. My colleagues Satya and Aarti are helping me with this. Thanks to them in this webinar. Now, Satya can put this up in the chat window so that you will have all the links. And yes, do visit dataplatformvirtualsummit.com. A lot of learning stuff out there.
Yep. Links are all there.
Great. Thanks, Satya. Now let's get started. So what do we want to do? So let's talk about some query performance issues. There are a lot of known common query performance problems. For example, implicit conversions. For example, when you have an index, but the index is not being seeked upon, instead the optimizer is choosing to scan, you may want to investigate why that is happening. There are issues with bookmark lookup. Is your plan using a lot of spooling? Sometimes spooling creates issues, so you may want to look into that. Let's say stats are not up to date, so you may want to look into that. Sort operations are going very expensive. You may want to investigate that. Cardinality estimation is not good, which means actual number of rows versus estimated number of rows is not good. You may want to investigate that. The world famous parameter sniffing issues. So there are so many problems that are prevalent with SQL Server and with your queries. Now, these are not problems with SQL Server. Any relational database management system will have such issues. It is up to you how you write the code, how you design indexes, how are you managing statistics, so on and so forth. So the whole idea here right now is let's pick up a few things and see how extended events can help you. Let's start with the first one, the most basic one, implicit conversion. Now, I am assuming that many of you know what this implicit conversion problem is. If you're converting from one data type to another data type, and if you are doing that explicitly, it is all good. But if you leave that conversion to SQL Server might take a bit of time to decide as to what is the source data type and what is the target destination, and it may it may take some extra milliseconds, and that is where your tuning opportunity is. Thankfully, whenever an implicit conversion happens and there is and the query plan gets affected because of that, Management Studio will give you a hint. And if you go to the execution plan, you choose the select operator. On the select operator, you might see an icon, exclamation mark, and that will tell you that there is an implicit conversion happening and you may want to investigate. So let's give this a try now. So I'm going to go to one of this query here in AdventureWorks 2016, and this is the data. So if you look at this simple query, I'm selecting a few columns from a table called sales.customer, and we're joining with person.person. That's fine. Now this is the key. We say where account number is equal to some value. And if I take the cursor over account number, a pop-up should come. Let me see if it's connected. Okay, no worries. Now, account number as a column has a different data type. Probably it is varchar. But if you look at the constant here, the literal rather that has been specified, I have put an N prefix, which means I'm telling SQL Server that this is Unicode data. So this becomes from and varchar has to be converted to varchar because of two different data types on the sides of the equality operator. When you run this query, the query will of course run absolutely fine and you will get the output. Let's do that and include actual execution plan. So let's go and execute this. JSON, where, okay, sorry, this is why I was getting some issues maybe. Okay, some typo in the query. So now if you look at account number there, so let me run the query first. Let's click execute and you can see you get the output. And this is what I was trying to show you. When you look at the cursor there, you can see that currently this field, this attribute, account number is varchar. And you know this is varchar and you're trying to compare it with the nvarchar value. Now this is where the problem is. How do you fix this? Well, fixing is another thing that we're going to see later, but first go and look into the execution plan. Now, when I go and look into the execution plan here, you will see that everything is fine, but there is an exclamation mark here on the select operator, which means there is some problem. Now, if you take the cursor over the select operator and then try to zoom in, you will see warning, and the warning clearly says that there is a type conversion in expression convert implicit. So SQL Server here is giving you a hint that there is an implicit conversion that is happening and it may affect seek plan. Now, what does this really mean? This means that seek plan, which means that you might have an index, but due to this conversion, SQL Server is not able to perform a seek and is maybe performing a scan, you know, those kind of things. Now, the question is, when such things happen, how do you get notification? How do you identify this? Because there are so many different workloads that are running round the clock, hitting your SQL Server and causing these issues, and you need to be notified about them. But first, let me show you, is this really a performance issue? First, let's check that. So I'm going to turn on set statistics time on to show you how much time this query is taking with implicit conversion versus no conversion or explicit. So let's go and execute this and go to the messages tab here. And you can see that this has taken about, let's jump down, execution time. CPU time you can see is about 766 milliseconds. So that's the amount of time the thread has spent on CPU, 766 milliseconds. Now, I know that there is a implicit conversion issue. May I try to fix it? So what I may want to do is remove N from here. Well, in this particular case, the fix is very simple because I don't need Unicode data on the right-hand side of the equality operator because account number is varchar. With this little change, if I execute this now, first let's go to the execution plan and see that there is no warning. Now you can see that the select operator seems to be playing all nice, no warning symbols, absolutely not. Let's go back to the messages tab and see how much time it has taken. Now you can see the total execution time in milliseconds is 0. It's not literally 0, but the whole idea is it is negligible, which means 766 milliseconds were really being consumed by the CPU to figure out this implicit conversion. Another thing that comes to your mind, and let me try talking to you about this. So let's use the chat window again and let me ask you a question, all of you. 766 milliseconds, which is even less than a second, and sometimes this could be just 200 milliseconds or 300 milliseconds. Do you really worry about every millisecond in the query? I mean, if I'm able to tune this query and bring it down from 200 milliseconds to 0 milliseconds, is that what you want to also worry about? Is it important that a query is taking 500 milliseconds more, half a second more? Your response in the chat window. Does it bother you? That's the question. So I'm looking at the chat window there. Okay, some of you say yes, Neeraj says yes, and Bindu says it depends on the number of executions. Murthy says yes. Neeraj says, yes, I'm in aviation. So yeah, every millisecond matters. Absolutely. I hope the aviation industry gets back to its feet after the pandemic. All right. Yes. So all of you say, yes, it is important. Thankfully, all of you are saying, yes, it is important, because in earlier cases, I have had responses that maybe not, etc. Yes. So one of you have rightly put it that it depends on the number of executions. And this is really where the point is. You know, if I execute this, let's say just for the sake of demo, let's say 20 times. Okay, just for the sake of 20 times, I'm going to turn off the actual execution plan, and let's revert the query back to this implicit conversion. And now what I'm trying to do is go 20 here is a SQL management specific thing here, which is this query is going to hit the engine, come back, then hit again and come back, right? So it's not a iteration that is happening 20 times on the server side. Every time it's going to come back to the client and go back again, which means 20 iterations of the same query with implicit conversion. Let's try to do that and see how much time this takes. And then we will try to run the same thing without implicit conversion. So let's go and execute this. Now execution plan is turned off. Of course, when you're doing such tests, you want to turn the execution plan off, because it's just going to take that much time to prepare the execution plan for each operation, and you may not want that. Now, when this is running, you can see that this has taken approximately 16 seconds here. So if you look at the status bar there, this has taken about 16 seconds in execution. And now what I'm going to do is turn this off, right? I mean, I'm going to fix the query. There will be no implicit conversion. And now let's measure the time. Remember, this was 16 seconds earlier. Okay, let's go and execute this. And without implicit conversion, how much time does this take? To your surprise, and this is right in front of you, there's no engineering here. Okay, this has taken just 3 seconds, as you can see. So way better performance improvement, right? Way better performance improvement. Now the question is, well, this session is not about query tuning, right? This session is about extended events. Now let's come to the point. How do you get notified, or how do you capture this information? So I'm going to use extended events. You know, whenever I see a query performance issue, which is happening at my client's place, with my customers on their production servers, I first try to see how can I get notified about that? How can I capture these frequent occurrences? And whenever that thought comes, extended events is the first tool that comes to my mind. And let me show you what I figured out. And I just didn't go to Google or search at all. I just pulled out extended events and I just tried to see, is there any event that will help me capture something like this? So let's go and look into that. I am going to, let me delete some of this stuff that is already there, which I was playing around with. So I'm going to right click sessions and click on new session here. Let us put the session name as query issues. Okay. I'm going to put the event name as query issues. I'm going to say that start the event on startup, start the event immediately after the session is created, and watch live data as it gets captured. Now, the most important, so I showed all this to you in part 1. Now let's jump to the events. As I said, in the events window here, and again, not very intuitive, a little cumbersome to work on this GUI, but then it does the work. What do you want to do? We want to find out, is there anything to do with conversion or implicit, etc. So let's go and type conversion. So do you get anything? Okay. There are some few things with conversion. So let's expand this a bit and see. Broker conversion, I can see something, okay. Plan affecting convert, okay. So there is something here called plan affecting convert. Is this what I want? There's also something called cursor implicit conversion. That's probably to do with the cursor object. Plan affecting convert might be of interest. So what does it say? Let's go and read the description. The description says, it occurs when a type convert issues affects the plan. And was this happening in our case? Yes, it was happening in our case also. So the expression value indicates that the conversion that can cause inaccurate cardinality estimation or prevent from using a seek-based plan in the query plan choice. If performance is affected, rewriting the query could help. Well, very basic, decent overview. probably this is one of the things that we may want to attack and we may want to capture. Now look at the category. The category is interesting. The category says warnings. Was this an execution plan warning in Management Studio? Yes, it was. So maybe this is the one that we can get. Now, I also want to take you and have your focus on this one. So it gives you these default fields: compile time, convert issue, what was the issue, and the expression. Okay, so let me see the description of expression. And you know, I'm really doing it the way I would do and try to read and understand, okay, what it is. So this gives the expression affecting the query plan choice. All right, all good. Okay, so let's take this and click on this arrow and get it on the right hand side. Okay, so we have taken plan affecting query plan choice. Now let's go and click on configure. And now in configure, here, you know, you can configure the details, and in details, what are you doing in details? Global fields. So, you know, there are only 3 fields that are coming along with the event. Now you want to capture any extra information that you want. So those are the common fields. We call, technically these are called as actions, but I mean, more in layman terms, global fields. So what I want to do is probably take a database name as an additional field. And I may want to take a, okay, look at this. So we have query plan hash, query hash, some of these. So do you also want to capture the query plan completely, the hash values? Well, you may want to do that later from the plan cache. Now, of course, because when you run extended events and you try to capture a lot of these informations, and I know for sure that trying to capture query plan with every execution might be might have a little performance impact on your server. So be very careful on the choices of the fields that you take here. So at this point, I'm not going to take those things, but I may take, let's say, SQL text, which is going to give me the complete SQL statement. And well, session ID, maybe you may want that. Well, up to you how you want to analyze and what really is important to you. There are a lot of these fields to play around with. Well, these are things that you can explore on your own. So what about data storage? Well, I'll skip the data storage because I'm just going to play live with this information right now. There's one more filter I want to do. I'm running this in AdventureWorks 2016, so I may want to do that. But anyway, there's nothing else running on SQL Server right now here. It's a very quaint box, so that's good enough. Let's go and click on OK. And there you go. So now you can see SQL Maestros. This one is running live, and something is running on its own, which is some internal operations. So I'm going to clear that stuff. And that is why it is important that you can filter on session ID and things like that. But now in real world, you may not be able to filter on session ID because it may come from anywhere, but you can filter on users, you can filter on roles. There are a lot of different ways how you can filter so that only user workload gets captured. What SQL Server is running behind the scene for its internal operations, you may not want to capture that. Anyway, this is running now. And what I want to do is let's go and run our query, implicit conversion. So I'm just going to run this once. Okay, and let's go and run this one and let's see if it gets captured. Okay, so we ran it once now, and let's go to the live window. Okay, max dispatch latency has been set. Let's run it for another time for, oh, sorry, my bad. First, the query has to have implicit conversion, right? So I have to make implicit conversion happen. We removed N. So now let's see, it should work. And the first implicit conversion happened, and yes, it gets captured. Now, this is where it is, and let's go and look at the details. So you can see why you get multiple events there. We'll talk about that later. That's not important. But what you can clearly see is convert issue, seek plan, and database name AdventureWorks 2016. Here is your expression, which was getting converted, and the full text. So what's important to you here right now is the complete details. So I know that in my database AdventureWorks 2016, there is some workload running, and I can get the full SQL text out there, and I know which is the expression. So we have this expression convert implicit, and where do you get this convert implicit from? This expression you're getting from the warning. Remember when we took the cursor over the select operator, you were getting the full information. Now what? I did not capture the query plan hash or the plan itself. Well, I don't need to, because if I have the text, I can pull out the query plan from the plan cache. I can do that, because think about it. If you have a lot of these issues in your SQL environment, and each execution is capturing the plan hash, then of course the session itself can have a minimal impact on SQL Server performance. So I really don't want to capture heavyweight stuff, right? Let's capture lightweight stuff. Even though extended events is lightweight, it's important that we take cognizant of the fact that what are you capturing, how much you are capturing, how frequently, so on and so forth. If you have questions, keep them coming in the Q&A panel. I will take up the questions in due course of time. Well, so next comes the remedial part. Well, I already showed you the remedy with this simple example, which is fixing it was just kind of ensuring that, you know, you have the same data type on both sides of the equality operator. But look at this, how easy it is to capture such information from the extended events. The best part here is that you may want to just run this in a live format like this, get a few handful of workloads coming in, because this could be a global problem. What do you mean by global problem is, when developers are writing all these queries and where they're building applications, they may not be aware that inside SQL Server, there are these issues that may cause performance problems. And once you capture a few samples, you can share it with the application team, with the application development managers, that, you know, such issues are plaguing SQL Server performance, and then they can take corrective measures thereon. So here was a very simple example on how I'm putting extended events to use. And now let's move on to another example. Another example. Okay, before I move to the next example, why not see if you have any questions? I'll wait for a minute or so because I want to move to the second demo. But let's see if there are questions with the first demo. I was seeing a few raised hands, and Satya, if there are questions from the YouTube chat window, please let me know. Okay. If you have questions, use the Q&A panel. Okay, so some people are putting down the questions there in the chat window. I will request you to put them in the Q&A panel. But anyway, Devinder Singh has a question. Does extended events has the feature like SQL trace file, which is used in SQL Profiler? So Devinder, you unfortunately, you probably were not there in part 1. And these parts are, these live streams are not recorded, just to let you know. So yes, in part 1, I did talk about that extended events has everything that Profiler has, everything. It has all those events, it has all those attributes, it has all those techniques, and you can very easily replicate what you are doing in Profiler into extended events. Plus, extended events has a lot more. If you remember from part 1, other audience members, there's only one thing that is probably not available is, remember in Profiler, when you capture a trace, you can play it against, you can replay it against a performance monitor capture, and you can align it with the time slice. Well, that thing is not available in extended events at this point. Otherwise, whatever you were doing in Profiler, you were doing your tracing, capturing, all that is available in extended events. Any more questions? We can go to Q&A panel. Meanwhile, okay. Now let's try to build a scenario where the query is running slow, and I'm not opening any query. I'm just going to type this in front of you. Okay, so let's say I'm using AdventureWorks 2016. Okay, and what am I? Let's say there is a user who is trying to fire an update. So let's say update. Okay. So here is the table. So let's say update person.persons and set. We'll say first name is equal to Amit, and we say where business entity ID is equal to 1. Now, this is a very simple statement that we want to fire. And I put this, encapsulate this in a transaction. Now, remember, ideally, you would have a commit or a rollback, but at this point, I'm not doing anything. So this is an in-flight transaction. Let's go and run this. And you will see that this is going to be an in-flight, which means no commit, no rollback. And the exclusive lock is going to be held for this particular transaction on this particular record, business entity ID 1. So let's go and run this. Now you can see one row is affected. Okay, I'm showing this to you so you know why the query is running slow. So let's start in another window. Let's say another user comes in. Okay, and this user does what? Simple, select star from person dot person. Now, all of you know that this user is going to wait. This user is going to wait, and you can see in the status bar executing query, and it's going to wait infinitely, so to say. This user is going to wait because this transaction, now every select statement here is an implicit transaction, isn't it? So this transaction is going to wait because it wants to acquire a shared lock on that particular record in the table, person.person. But that particular record is already logged by the other transaction, which is performing the update statement, and an exclusive lock is already placed. So transaction 1 already has an exclusive lock, and transaction 2 here, user 2 wants a shared lock. You know that in locking architecture, the shared locks and exclusive locks are incompatible, and that's why this is going to wait. But for a moment, just think that this particular user has absolutely no idea why am I waiting, right? This is considered to be slowness. It is touching about a minute, 60 seconds, and the response has still not come in. And what is the user trying to do? Fire a simple select statement. Now, these things are constantly happening in SQL Server, right? There could be other reasons why this query is running slow, but it is waiting for a lock to be released so that it can acquire its own lock. This is something that you know because I have shown it to you. But when these are happening in real world, how do you get to know what is your query waiting for? What is the workload waiting for? It could be a resource contention. It could be waiting for something, right? And it may be a blocking scenario in an example like this. So how do you get notified? How can you track this? How can you identify this? Well, answer is extended events. So in extended events also, you have an event. So let's do something. Let's go and roll back this now for the time being. All right. And this will of course go through and you get the output. Now this took about 2 minutes to run, and you know why, because of a simple blocking and locking scenario. Well, the idea of this demo is not to show you a simple locking and blocking scenario. The idea here is to show you how extended events can be put into use to capture all these slow running queries and why are they running slow. Remember, a query being blocked and waiting is also an example of slowness. For the business user, it is that the output is not coming and the user will raise a support ticket. So let's go and try to play around with this. And what I'm trying to do is let's go and just create another session, and let's call this as query wait stats. So I'm going to say query wait stats, and then this is the second example that I'm showing you. So I will start the event session, both of them watch live. I'm going to do the same stuff, and then I go back to the events. And as I said, going through the events and reading their description here in the window itself, I do not know if this is so well documented because there's so many events, but maybe in Microsoft Docs, SQL Server Docs, docs means documentation there, you may be able to find the description of each and every event. But as I always do, I want to capture wait information. So I type wait here. Now let me see, what do I get? So I am getting quite a few events related to wait, and just for the sake of brevity of time here, so I go to wait info, and there's wait info external also, but then wait info says, let's go and read the description of wait info. It says occurs when there is a wait on a SQL OS controlled resource. Use this event to track resource waits that occur during a task execution. Were we executing a task? Yes, we were. Now going back to the SQL OS architecture, remember Sometimes we just say, I was just executing a query. I don't know if this was a task. What is a thread? What is a worker? Well, all these are concepts related to the SQL OS operating system. And that's a completely different topic. But on a short note, if you dive deep into the internals and architecture of SQL Server database engine is divided into multiple components. One of the components is the SQL operating system. It's just not a fake name. It really does exist. And it's all encapsulated in two DLL files. One I remember is SQLOS.dll. If you search the bin directory of SQL Server installation folder, you may find this DLL where all the SQL OS code is encapsulated. And SQL OS is responsible for the resource management. So things like what an operating system does, which is thread management, worker management, memory management, right? And let's say managing IO, all these are OS functions, isn't it? So when SQL Server has to do all of that stuff, the SQL OS component handles it. And remember, SQL OS does not even know that on top of me, there is a database engine running. So this is how it works. So this resource contention and wait also happens at SQL OS level. When you send a query to SQL Server, for you it's a query, but when SQL Server takes in the query and wants to execute it, it gets converted to a task. And a thread is assigned to the task. And a worker from the pool is scheduled to take this thread and schedule it on a scheduler. Scheduler is the logical CPU. So this is how it all happens. Anyway, now let's go and take this wait info. And what are we getting? What are the fields in wait info here? I hope this GUI improves a bit. So you have duration, operation code, wait resource, wait type, couple of these things. Okay, so let's go and take wait info and then click on configure again. This is something that we just did in the previous example also. And what I want to take, I again want to take database name. I just want to know where in which database this issue happened when the query is running. And of course, I want to take SQL text as well for the purpose of demo. I can take session ID also. And I can take SQL text. Let's keep scrolling down and we'll take SQL text. So I've taken 3 global fields. These are common fields. You do not have the control over the fields that come with every event by default. You got to take them. Okay, so we are done with this. And I think we are just watching this in the live window. I'm not storing it anywhere. So let's click on OK. And you are getting all this. Wow, you are getting a lot of info there. Can you just see all the waits that are happening? Now, this is where the trouble is, correct? This is where the real trouble is. How are you going to find your wait stats if so much of system information is getting captured? So that's the tricky part. You already have 1700 events there. You know, there's all internal system stuff going on. So now you got to understand, and this is where you will realize the value and the power of filtering, right? And choosing the right fields and predicates. Because you just don't want to get all this unwanted data in your extended events file. But now let's say you have done it. I'm going to show it to you how you can filter. So let it capture, who cares? So let's go and run this particular query once more. Let me just close the window. Okay, so we are going to do this, run this transaction again. Okay, one row affected, and let's go and select person.person. Now, as I said, ideally, when you are configuring extended events, and I talked about this in part 1 also, which is you need to choose the right fields, put in the right filters while configuring the event so that you only capture relevant information. So that there's a lot of noise coming in there, right? Because if you see here in the live window, there's so many events getting captured, about 7,000 or so. You want to filter out all that stuff. So put in the right filters so that you only capture application workloads. And if you know where exactly with which database, because you might have an environment, there are multiple databases serving different kinds of application, try to narrow it down to what you really need. That will just help you to be more productive. Now, this has been running for over a minute, I guess. Let's go and see. Yes, just touching a minute. So I'm going to go and do a rollback now. Okay, let's do a rollback. And now this is done. And now let's Let me see if my configuration and everything was correct. I'm going to stop the feed. Now in these 23,000 events that have been captured, 23,000 events out there, I want to find out my event. Now, ideally, in real world, I will not be doing something like this where, so many events get captured. I'm going to filter it. But let's say I did that and my event is somewhere in between here. And you know what you can filter on, right? You can filter on the database name because we have the database name. You can see that most of these events actually came in master, okay? Because there were a lot of system things that were running and waits will always happen in SQL Server, right? It is part of the architecture. So all these are not a problem because you can see for most of them, the duration is 0. Every wait has a begin state and an end state. That's why for each wait type, you will have 2 events that will be occurring. So what I can do is I can take the, let's say okay, so here, when I look at the events, I'm just trying to look around the data. This is wait type, dirty page poll. So opcode end, opcode begin. And in some places there, I can see database name. Let me do one thing. So let me take database name. Let's try to play around with this. I'm going to right click and show this column in table, right? In the window. So now I get the database name here. And can I filter on database name? Yes, we can. So let's try to do that. So we can click on filters here, and in the filter window, I can say that database name is equal to AdventureWorks. So let's try this. AdventureWorks 2016. And let's click on apply. Okay, and click on OK. And now you can see there were a lot of waits that happened in AdventureWorks 2016. So this has not helped me much, right? Except the fact that I can see my queries there multiple times here, coming wait info being captured. So let's try to drill down even further because I just want to go down to that one where the duration was about a minute. So I'll just take 50 seconds or so, right? So I can go to filters, but before we do that, okay, no, I can do it here. And I can say, and let's go and take duration is greater than 60 seconds. So 60 seconds means 60,000 milliseconds. And no, we're taking 50, right? So let's take with 50. So we're taking about 50,000 milliseconds. But remember, in extended events, duration is in microseconds. So I'll put 3 more zeros, okay? And then apply. Let's see what do we get. Okay, so I am not getting the event that I wanted to capture. So let me go and clear the last filter here. Okay. And let's click on delete there. Delete the clause. Let's play around only with AdventureWorks 2016. So I want to see where exactly, and why did I get so many events? Okay. Well, I will try to troubleshoot that a bit later as to why we have so many events coming in, not the right filter. But let's jump to our one, which I can see right on the top there. So here, if I scroll down a bit, I can, okay, in this particular case, the duration was actually in milliseconds, not microseconds. So I can see right click, duration show in the column. So I can see duration is 58,000 seconds. So now let me just apply the filter once more. Okay. I got confused with the duration thing that we see in query stats. So in waits, it is in milliseconds. Okay, and duration is greater than 50,000. So let's put that. There you go. Now I get that one event which I wanted to capture, and I've put the filter on AdventureWorks 2016 and duration which is greater than 50,000. And now let's look at the values there. So if you see, all the information gets captured here. Well, This was a database named AdventureWorks 2016. Okay. And we had the duration, it waited for 58 seconds. And most important is, of course, you get the query also, etc. But as I said, the session ID is 85. What is most important? Why was this query waiting? This was waiting because of wait type LCKMS, which means lock mode shared, which means this particular query, the statement select start from person.person was waiting on a resource to acquire shared lock. So shared is the mode. That's why it says lock mode shared. And I get that information. So now you can, and now what is the fix for this? Well, it depends. Why is the query waiting? Why is it slow? It depends on a lot of different things. Let's close this. And locking, now just digressing a bit, locking and blocking is a very common phenomena that happens in database systems. So it's not that I'm not trying to show you that how you're capturing locking and blocking scenarios. I mean, every millisecond is a blocking scenario. But let's say if locking and blocking scenarios, the blocking scenario is happening for a longer duration, that is where you may want to pay attention. And that is where extended events comes very handy. Right in the configuration, if you want to filter, you can say duration is, let's say, greater than 10 seconds. So whenever there is a blocking scenario greater than 10 seconds, you want to be notified. That should come to your attention. And then you may want to investigate as to why, what kind of concurrency is being implemented and why users are waiting so much when they just want to read data. Things like, do you want to implement optimistic concurrency? Is it like writers are blocking readers? So on and so forth. So, I mean, it's a longer discussion, but the whole idea is that there are a lot of different ways how you can play around with this. Well, with this, I come to an end of both the demos that I had planned. I had planned a third demo also on page splits and fragmentation, but maybe let's do an extended events part 3 sometime later in the month. So I hope both part 1 and part 2 were useful to you. Part 1, I just gave a quick introduction. And now slightly more detailed as to, I was trying to encourage you that you should look at extended events if you have not already tried it, because it can really come as a blessing in disguise. In part 2, I took 2 examples, and really with the number of events that we have here and the number of scenarios, I mean, you can go on and on and on. There could be hundreds of such examples where extended events can be used to capture performance data. It can help you identify where the root cause of a problem is and can bring you closer to fixing it, bring you closer to diagnosing it and solving the real world issue. With this, friends, let's jump to question answers. If you have no questions and if you're planning to leave, why don't you leave a thank you note by tagging me on _Bansal, or if you want to put a note on Facebook or LinkedIn, if it is worth your time. If you really enjoyed the session, do put a note and tag me. I'm available in all these social media channels. Visit SQLmaestros.com for more learning, and I will really encourage you to visit dataplatformvirtualsummit.com. The link is there in the chat window. Just a quick word about this event, and many of you might know that this event used to happen in India, in Bangalore, for the last 5 years. And just like everybody else, due to pandemic, we have taken this event online. And then when we took it online, we have defied all the boundaries, which is this event is going to run, the summit is going to run live 72 hours non-stop, which is 3 days and 3 nights, continuously round the clock. Wherever you are in the world, you can join the event and you get recordings for all the sessions at absolutely no extra cost. The fees to join the event is also very nominal. We have made it very community friendly. So about 230 sessions are going to be in the roster, and you're going to get recordings for all of them. Not only that, for the first time ever in the community event history, the pre-cons and the post-cons, which are the training classes, even they are going to be recorded. And those who are joining those classes by MVPs, Microsoft, and real-world experts, you are going to get those class recordings also. So you can just watch them again and again and again. This is something which is very close to my heart, because I always felt that when you go and sit in a class, there's so much that you can extract out of that class. You always wanted to go back to the recording of the class, to watch that again, to understand those demos again, to see what were the concepts that were being discussed. So here is an amazing opportunity where whatever you learn live, you get the recordings of that. And you can get all of this while sitting in your home or at office. So visit dataplatformvirtualsummit.com. Do make a point. If you want the scripts and things like that, just drop an email to connect with AB at sqlmaestros.com. And this is the exclusive subscription list deal that I have. My attendees, people who join conferences and sessions and live events like these. I shared this with them. So if you want more learning resources in your inbox, you can subscribe to this. Well, just go to sqlmaestros.com and you will have all the links. Now over to questions. And if you have no questions and if you're leaving, have a very good day. Thanks for joining today's live stream. Hope it was worth your time. But stick around because sometimes you may learn from others' questions as well. So let's see what questions we have. Avi has a question. Can we use session ID? Well, of course, session ID is one of the most popular way of filtering extended events data and to cut down a lot of noise. So you can obviously use that. When I was configuring it and when I was filtering it, you might have seen session ID popping up in a couple of places. Session ID is really helpful when you're troubleshooting right in the production environment. May not be very helpful if you're capturing the data and you want to analyze the history later, because session IDs are very dynamic, right? I mean, they're not very helpful later on. May not be helpful, but in production environment, troubleshooting, it is helpful. Okay, what's the next question? Satya, if you have more questions from the YouTube chat window and Facebook chat windows, you can please put them in the chat window here or maybe in the Q&A panel. Yeah. So the next session, the next question, sorry, is from Shri. How event session will update in live data? How event session will update in live data? Shri, can you please rephrase the question? I am not able to figure out what exactly are you trying to ask. Devinder has a question. While I wait for Sri to rephrase the question, does extended events provide more info? Okay, Devinder has a question. Does extended events provide more information we can get from Query Store? Of course, there are extended events related to Query Store. So yes, you should go and explore that. It's a very subjective question right now, so I can't answer it in depth, but yes, extended events and Query Store has very tight integration, and this combination is deadly. It is very powerful. So you should go and explore more. I will suggest go and read some Microsoft documentation. There are examples as to how you can leverage both of them together. Okay. Aarti has, okay. So are you offering any training class in DPS? Yes, of course. I am also doing, along with other experts and speakers, I also have a full day performance tuning class as part of DPS 2020, which is dataplatformvirtualsummit.com. So just go to dataplatformvirtualsummit.com. I have a postcon 8 hours divided into 4 hours each day. And of course, for that class also, you will get the recordings. So get all the information there. We have one more question. Can we save the data into a database table like Profiler? Yes, you can do that. In part 1, I showed you how you could do that. So when you have the live window and there will be an extended events tab. Can I share the screen and show that to you? 1 second. Let me see if the window is still open there. Okay, so if you can see the window there. So when I have this live window, I can go to extended events and export the data to a table. When you do that, the data can be stored in a table and you can just choose which database and the table name, and it just comes like any other data set. And then you can do all your T-SQL stuff with that data. So those who are very comfortable with T-SQL and really want to do all the analysis with T-SQL, this is a great option. So that question gets answered. Any more questions from YouTube? Okay. Amit, can we configure n number of extended events? Okay, n number of extended events, which probably means, okay, I can break this down into 2 questions, okay? Breaking a question into 2 questions. Question number 1, can you have a number of events in a session? Yes, you can have. In both the examples that I showed today, I just took 1 event. So you might think that, okay, can you only choose 1 session per event? No, you can choose multiple events. You can choose multiple events per session, and you can have multiple sessions also running. So just go to your SQL Server right now, and I hope in latest versions of SQL Server, you expand Object Explorer management and go into extended events and sessions. You will already see two or three default sessions running, and just right click on system health session, which is running by default, and just see how many events are already configured out there. Yeah, so the answer is yes to both. One more question. Biplab has a question. Okay, can long running queries be captured? Of course. Again, this was something that I showed in part 1 when I used events like statement completed, SQL statement starting, batch completed, stored procedure completed, and all of that, which has this duration thing. And that is why I got a bit confused, because there we play around in microseconds, but when you're dealing with wait stats, we are playing around in milliseconds, and that was the confusion. So yes, there you can capture all of that and filter on, again, duration. Okay, we have one more question there. Does extended events have in-memory specific information? In-memory, okay, traditional event capturing mechanisms does not provide much information there. In-memory. Devendra, are you talking about in-memory OLTP, in-memory tables? Is I mean, talking about extended events capturing information related to that feature? If you say yes, then I will answer that. And I'm just looking around if there are any more questions. Yes, I mean in-memory OLTP. Yes, of course you have. So do the same thing that I did just now, which is go to the extended events graphical user interface, search, filter on the event, type in name, type memory, and see what comes up. I personally have not done much around using extended events to troubleshoot in-memory OLTP related issues, but I'm sure extended events has events related to most features in SQL Server. And I'm sure there are things related to in-memory OLTP also. Just look around, search around, Google around, look at Microsoft documentation. I'm sure you're going to get some things. Or beyond this, friends, if you have more questions, remember we have Telegram channels. If you just go to dataplatformgeeks.com, maybe you will get those links. You know, in dataplatformgeeks.com, if you go to the menu at the end, our social channels, we are on Telegram, we are on Facebook, we are on LinkedIn. So there are a lot of these groups available for you to ask more questions. Ask your question related to extended events. Tag me if you want, and I will find time to answer your question. So I'll wind this up here. Oh, thanks. So Satya has just put the link there, Data Platform Geeks, our social channels. That's there in the chat window. So you can join some of them. And I'm there on Twitter, _Bansal. With this, thank you very much. Hope this 1 hour session was worth your time, and hope you learned something new and you will take back to your production environment. Do leave some feedback on the social media channels. I hope to see some of you in Data Platform Virtual Summit. So visit dataplatformvirtualsummit.com and then have a good day. Stay safe. Thank you. Goodbye.